The morning sun cast long shadows across the military compound as Sarah Chun quietly packed her sniper rifle into its worn case. Around her, soldiers bustled about with the usual pre-deployment energy, but nobody paid attention to the small woman in the corner methodically cleaning her weapon. She had grown used to being overlooked. At 28, Sarah had spent 6 years proving herself in a world that constantly questioned her abilities. Standing barely 5 feet 3 inches tall with a slight build, she looked nothing like what people expected from an elite sniper. Her quiet demeanor and tendency to keep to herself only reinforced the misconception that she was just another support staff member rather than one of the deadliest marksmen in the entire division. "Hey you," barked Sergeant Williams, a burly man with arms like tree trunks. "What are you doing with that equipment? That's military property, not some toy for you to play with." Sarah looked up calmly, her dark eyes meeting his without flinching. "This is my assigned weapon, Sergeant. I'm preparing for the mission briefing." Williams laughed, a harsh sound that attracted the attention of several other soldiers nearby. "Your weapon? Listen, sweetheart, I don't know what clerical error put you in this unit, but snipers are real soldiers, not—" He gestured dismissively at her small frame. "Not what, Sergeant?" Sarah's voice remained steady, though her jaw tightened slightly. "Not little girls playing dress-up," Williams sneered. The other soldiers chuckled, emboldened by their sergeant's attitude. "Why don't you run along to the medical tent where you belong? I'm sure they need someone to file paperwork or make coffee." Sarah said nothing, simply returned to her equipment check. She had heard variations of this conversation countless times before. Words couldn't hurt her anymore, but they still stung in a way she'd never admit. She had worked twice as hard as every man in her unit to earn her position, had outperformed them in every training exercise, yet still faced the same dismissive attitudes day after day. Captain Rodriguez, the unit commander, entered the preparation area just as Williams was reaching for Sarah's rifle case. "What's going on here, Sergeant?" "Just moving some misplaced equipment, sir," Williams replied, his hand hovering over the case. "This civilian gear got mixed up with our supplies somehow." Rodriguez's eyebrows rose slightly. He was one of the few officers who knew Sarah's true capabilities, having personally requested her assignment to his unit after reviewing her training scores. "Sergeant Williams, step away from Corporal Chen's equipment immediately." "Sir." Williams looked confused, his hand freezing in mid-reach. "That civilian gear belongs to the best sniper in this entire battalion," Rodriguez said firmly. "Corporal Chun has more confirmed kills than any 3 of your men combined, and her accuracy rating is the highest I've seen in 15 years of service." The preparation area fell silent. Several soldiers stopped what they were doing to stare at Sarah, who continued calmly checking her scope without acknowledging the conversation happening around her. Williams lowered his hand slowly, his face reddening with embarrassment and anger. "Sir, with all due respect, she doesn't look like any sniper I've ever seen." "That's exactly what makes her so effective, Sergeant," Rodriguez replied. "The enemy never sees her coming either." As the tension in the room became palpable, Sarah finally looked up from her equipment. Her gaze swept across the faces of her fellow soldiers, noting the mixture of skepticism, curiosity, and barely concealed hostility. She had long ago stopped trying to win their approval or friendship. Respect would have to be earned through actions, not words. "Corporal Chun," Captain Rodriguez addressed her directly, "please brief the unit on your role in tomorrow's operation." Sarah stood, her movements precise and controlled. Despite her small stature, something in her bearing commanded attention. "Intelligence indicates enemy sniper activity in the target zone. My primary objective is counter-sniper operations and protection of command elements during the advance." "Protection of command elements?" Williams scoffed. "Captain, surely you're not putting the safety of our officers in the hands of—" "Enough, Sergeant." Rodriguez's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Corporal Chen's record speaks for itself. She has successfully completed 47 combat missions with 0 friendly casualties under her watch. Her longest confirmed kill is at 1,500 meters in adverse weather conditions." The room remained silent as the implications of these statistics sank in. 1,500 meters was an extraordinary distance for any sniper, requiring exceptional skill and extensive training. The fact that this small, quiet woman had achieved such a feat challenged everything these soldiers thought they knew about combat effectiveness. Sarah could see the doubt still lingering in their eyes, particularly in Williams's hard stare. She understood their skepticism. It was natural human behavior to judge based on appearances. But she had learned long ago that proving herself once wasn't enough. She would have to prove herself again and again, with each new unit, each new mission, each new group of soldiers who couldn't see past her size and gender. "Dismissed," Rodriguez announced. "Mission briefing at 0600 hours. I suggest you all get some rest." As the soldiers filed out of the preparation area, Sarah heard whispered conversations and caught fragments of doubt-filled comments. "No way that little thing is a real sniper. Captain must be losing it. She'll probably get someone killed." Sarah methodically finished her equipment check, her movements betraying none of the frustration building inside her. She had faced this kind of prejudice throughout her military career, from basic training through advanced sniper school. Instructors had initially tried to discourage her, convinced that she lacked the physical strength and mental toughness required for the role. They had been wrong then, just as Williams and his cronies were wrong now. But Sarah knew that tomorrow's mission would be different. Tomorrow, lives would be on the line, including that of Captain Rodriguez, who had shown faith in her abilities when others had not. Tomorrow, she would have the chance to prove once, and for all that appearances could be deceiving. As she secured her rifle case and gathered her gear, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. Growing up in a small farming town, she had discovered her natural aptitude for marksmanship during high school hunting trips with her father. What started as a way to help put food on the family table had evolved into something much more significant. The military had offered her a path out of poverty and toward a meaningful career, but it had also presented challenges she never could have imagined. The physical demands of training had been brutal, but manageable with determination and careful preparation. The mental challenges, the pressure, the split-second decisions, the weight of responsibility had forged her into someone stronger than she ever thought possible. But the social challenges, the constant need to prove her worth to people who judged her before she even opened her mouth, remained the most exhausting aspect of her service. Every day brought new battles against prejudice and preconception, fought not with weapons, but with patience, skill, and unwavering professionalism. As Sarah made her way to her quarters, she passed a group of soldiers gathered around Williams. Their conversation stopped abruptly when they saw her approaching, but she caught enough to understand they were still discussing her supposed inadequacies. Their skepticism was almost palpable, following her like a shadow. In her small room, Sarah laid out her gear with military precision. Each piece of equipment had been selected and modified through years of experience, from the custom grip on her rifle to the specialized scope that had served her through dozens of successful missions. This equipment represented more than just tools of her trade. It was an extension of herself, carefully maintained and intimately understood. She thought about Captain Rodriguez's words, about the 47 missions and 0 friendly casualties. Each of those missions represented lives saved, threats eliminated, objectives achieved through patience, skill, and absolute dedication to her craft. Yet tomorrow, she would once again face soldiers who saw only what they expected to see, a small woman who didn't belong in their world. Sarah checked her watch and began her pre-mission routine. Physical conditioning, mental preparation, equipment verification, each step performed with the same meticulous attention to detail that had kept her alive and effective through years of combat operations. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to prove herself, and new chances to save the lives of soldiers who currently questioned her very presence among them. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same people who doubted her capabilities would soon depend on those very skills for their survival. Tomorrow's mission would be unlike any training exercise or previous operation. Tomorrow, everything would be real, and Sarah Chun would finally have the opportunity to show her unit exactly what she was capable of accomplishing. The mission briefing at 0600 hours revealed the complexity of what lay ahead. Intelligence had identified a high-value target hiding in a fortified compound approximately 3 kilometers from their insertion point. The area was known to be heavily defended, with multiple sniper positions and sophisticated early warning systems that made conventional assault extremely dangerous. Captain Rodriguez stood before a detailed map, pointing to various tactical positions as he outlined the operation. Our primary objective is to capture or eliminate Hassan al-Mahmoud, a terrorist leader responsible for coordinating attacks against civilian targets. Secondary objectives include gathering intelligence from his communications equipment and disrupting his network's operations. Sarah listened intently while studying the terrain features on the map. Her trained eye immediately identified potential sniper positions, lines of sight, and areas of vulnerability. The compound sat atop a hill surrounded by sparse vegetation, offering excellent defensive advantages to anyone positioned inside. More concerning were the numerous buildings and elevated positions in the surrounding area where enemy snipers could effectively cover the approaches. Intelligence suggests at least 3 confirmed sniper positions here, and here, Rodriguez continued, marking locations with a red pen. These positions have direct oversight of our planned approach routes. Neutralizing these threats will be essential to mission success. Sergeant Williams raised his hand. Sir, what's our plan for dealing with the enemy snipers? Are we bringing in air support or artillery? Negative, Sergeant. This is a stealth operation. Any heavy weapons fire will alert the entire area and give our target time to escape. Our success depends on surgical precision and maintaining the element of surprise. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She would be the only counter-sniper asset on this mission, responsible for protecting the entire unit from threats that could eliminate them from distances exceeding half a mile. The margin for error was essentially 0. Corporal Chun will provide overwatch and counter-sniper support, Rodriguez announced. She'll position herself here on this ridge line, which offers sight lines to all known enemy positions while maintaining concealment from the target compound. Williams frowned at the map. Sir, that position is over 800 meters from the nearest enemy sniper nest. That's an extremely difficult shot under ideal conditions, let alone in a combat environment. 800 meters is well within Corporal Chen's effective range, Rodriguez replied firmly. Her record includes successful engagements at significantly greater distances. Sarah could sense the continued skepticism from Williams and several other soldiers, but she remained focused on the tactical situation. 800 meters was indeed a challenging distance, but far from impossible given proper preparation and favorable conditions. What concerned her more was the need to potentially engage multiple targets in rapid succession while maintaining concealment from other enemy positions. After the briefing, the unit began final preparations for deployment. Sarah conducted a detailed inspection of her rifle, checking every component with methodical precision. The .338 Lapua Magnum rifle had been her constant companion through dozens of successful missions, its accuracy and reliability proven under the most demanding circumstances. As she adjusted her scope for the anticipated engagement distances, Private Martinez approached hesitantly. Unlike Williams and some of the other soldiers, Martinez was young and relatively new to the unit. His curiosity seemed genuine rather than dismissive. Corporal Chun, he began quietly. Can I ask you something? What is it, Martinez? What's it like, taking a life from that distance? Sarah paused in her equipment check, considering the question. It wasn't one she received often, and the honest answer was more complex than most people could understand. Every shot is taken to protect lives, Martinez. When you're behind that scope, you're not thinking about philosophy or morality. You're thinking about the soldiers depending on you to keep them safe. Martinez nodded slowly. Were you scared? The first time, Terrified, Sarah admitted, but Fear becomes manageable with training and experience. What matters is being able to function effectively despite the fear. Their conversation was interrupted by Williams approaching with obvious irritation. Martinez, stop bothering the corporal with your questions. We have equipment to prep. He's not bothering me, Sergeant, Sarah said calmly. Questions about combat are natural and healthy. Williams scowled. Save the philosophy for after the mission, assuming we all make it back alive. The implication in his words was clear, and Sarah felt the familiar frustration building. Williams had already decided that her presence endangered the mission, despite having no evidence to support this conclusion. Worse, his attitude was influencing other soldiers who might otherwise keep an open mind about her capabilities. As the unit conducted final weapons checks and communications tests, Sarah overheard fragments of conversation that revealed the depth of doubt surrounding her role. I still can't believe they're trusting our lives to someone who looks like she belongs in an office. If we get pinned down by enemy fire, what's she going to do? Ask them nicely to stop shooting. Sarah had learned to compartmentalize these comments, focusing instead on the technical aspects of her mission. Weather reports indicated light winds from the southwest, which would affect bullet trajectory at longer ranges. Temperature and humidity readings were within normal parameters, minimizing atmospheric disturbance of her shots. Most importantly, the forecast called for clear skies, providing optimal visibility conditions. The helicopter insertion went smoothly, with the unit landing approximately 4 kilometers from the target compound under cover of darkness. Sarah immediately began surveying the terrain through her night vision scope, identifying the features she had studied on the map, and looking for any changes or unexpected obstacles. The squad moved through the pre-dawn darkness with practiced efficiency, each soldier maintaining proper spacing and noise discipline. Sarah appreciated their professionalism, even if many of them questioned her presence. These were experienced combat veterans who understood the importance of tactical fundamentals regardless of personal opinions. As they approached the designated overwatch position, Sarah began her final preparations. The ridge line offered excellent concealment while providing clear sight lines to all known enemy sniper positions. More importantly, it allowed her to cover the squad's approach routes without exposing herself to return fire from the target compound. Setting up her shooting position required careful attention to detail. The bipod legs needed precise adjustment to ensure stability across the anticipated range of engagement angles. Camouflage netting would provide visual concealment while allowing unrestricted view through the scope. Most critically, Sarah needed to verify range measurements to each potential target area, ensuring accurate shot placement when seconds counted. Through her scope, Sarah could see the first hints of dawn beginning to lighten the eastern horizon. Soon, the enemy compound would become clearly visible, along with any defensive positions that might threaten her unit. The mission was entering its most dangerous phase, where months of planning and preparation would be tested against the unpredictable realities of combat. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through her radio earpiece. Overwatch, this is Alpha Leader. We're approaching Phase Line Delta. Report status. Alpha Leader, Overwatch is in position and ready, Sarah responded quietly. No enemy movement detected at this time. Copy, Overwatch. Maintain vigilance. We're beginning our final approach. Sarah settled into her shooting position, controlling her breathing and heart rate through techniques learned during years of training. Through her scope, she could see the target compound emerging from the morning shadows, its defensive positions becoming clearer with each passing minute. Somewhere among those buildings and fortified positions were enemy snipers waiting to engage her unit. The next hour would determine whether months of preparation and years of training would be enough to protect soldiers who still doubted her abilities. Sarah pushed aside thoughts of skepticism and prejudice, focusing entirely on the tactical situation developing before her. Lives depended on her skill and judgment, including the lives of men who had questioned her right to be here. As the sun continued to rise, Sarah could make out movement in several of the identified sniper positions. The enemy was alert and prepared, their weapons likely already trained on the approaches her unit would have to use. The deadly game of cat and mouse was about to begin, with Sarah Chun holding the responsibility for keeping her fellow soldiers alive. As the morning sun crested the horizon, Sarah's scope revealed movement in the leftmost enemy sniper position. A figure in camouflage clothing was adjusting what appeared to be a heavy rifle, positioning it to cover the exact route Captain Rodriguez's team would need to use for their approach. Sarah made minute adjustments to her scope, compensating for the 847-meter distance and slight crosswind. Her radio crackled softly. "Overwatch, Alpha Leader. We're beginning movement toward objective rally point. Any threats visible?" Sarah keyed her microphone quietly. "Alpha Leader, confirmed sniper position at bearing 270 degrees, approximately 850 meters. Target is armed and appears to be scanning for movement. Can you neutralize the threat?" "Affirmative. Engaging now." Sarah controlled her breathing, settling into the familiar rhythm that had served her through dozens of successful engagements. Inhale, exhale, natural respiratory pause, gentle trigger squeeze. The .338 lap you around left the barrel with a muffled crack, the suppressor reducing, but not eliminating the weapon's signature. Through her scope, Sarah watched the enemy sniper crumple behind his weapon. The shot had been perfect, center mass, eliminating the threat instantly. One down, but intelligence had indicated at least 2 more sniper positions, and Sarah knew that additional shooters might be positioned in areas not identified during mission planning. "Good hit. Overwatch." Rodriguez's voice contained a note of satisfaction. "Threat neutralized. Continue scanning for additional contacts." Sarah was already moving her scope to the second known position when she detected muzzle flash from an unexpected location. An enemy sniper had fired from a building not marked on their intelligence maps, and the round had come dangerously close to Sergeant Williams's position. "Sniper! Sniper! Take cover!" Williams's voice exploded over the radio, filled with panic and anger. "They've got us zeroed. We're pinned down." Sarah quickly acquired the new threat, a shooter positioned on the 3rd floor of a partially constructed building. The angle was challenging, requiring her to engage through a narrow window opening at nearly 900 meters. Worse, the enemy sniper had spotted her unit's location and was preparing for a second shot. "Overwatch, we need immediate suppression of that position," Rodriguez commanded urgently. "Williams is exposed and can't move without drawing fire." Sarah adjusted her aim point, accounting for the extreme angle and increased distance. The enemy sniper was partially concealed behind cover, presenting only a limited target area. This shot would require absolute precision under time pressure, the most demanding type of engagement for any marksman. The enemy rifle cracked again, and Sarah saw Williams dive frantically for cover as the round struck inches from his previous position. Through her scope, she could see the enemy sniper working the bolt of his rifle, preparing for what would likely be a killing shot. Sarah's second shot echoed across the valley. The enemy sniper pitched backward from his window position, his rifle falling to the floor below. The immediate threat to Williams had been eliminated, but Sarah knew there were still more dangers lurking in the compound area. "Outstanding shooting, Overwatch." Rodriguez's voice carried genuine admiration. "Williams, report your status." "I'm okay," Williams responded, though his voice shook slightly. "That was way too close. How many more of these guys are out there?" Sarah was already scanning for the 3rd known sniper position when movement caught her attention in an entirely different area. Someone was moving between buildings inside the main compound, and the distinctive outline of a sniper rifle was visible in the person's hands. This wasn't just another defender. The weapon configuration and deliberate movement patterns indicated an experienced marksman seeking a shooting position. "Alpha Leader, additional sniper, moving inside the compound proper. He's trying to get elevation for shots on your position." "Copy that. Can you get a clear shot?" Sarah tracked the figure as he moved between buildings, seeking the optimal angle. The range was over 1,000 meters now, pushing the absolute limits of her equipment and skills. More challenging was the fact that the enemy sniper was moving unpredictably, making precise shot placement extremely difficult. The enemy marksman disappeared into a 3-story building that offered commanding views of the entire approach area. If he reached a shooting position on the upper floors, he would be able to engage Rodriguez's entire team with devastating effectiveness. Sarah had perhaps 30 seconds before the threat became active. "I'm moving to intercept," Sarah announced, quickly gathering her equipment. Her current position offered no shot angle to the building where the enemy sniper had disappeared. She would have to relocate under time pressure, something that violated every principle of sniper employment, but was necessary given the tactical situation. Sarah moved rapidly but carefully down the ridge line, seeking a position that would provide sight lines to the target building. Her equipment, normally organized for extended stationary employment, felt awkward during the rushed movement. Every second of delay increased the danger to her unit. Behind a cluster of rocks approximately 200 meters from her original position, Sarah quickly re-established her shooting position. The new angle provided a clear view of the target building's upper floors, where windows offered potential firing positions for the enemy sniper. Through her scope, Sarah could see movement behind a third-floor window. The enemy marksman was setting up his rifle, preparing to engage targets that he could undoubtedly see clearly from his elevated position. Sarah estimated the range at nearly 1,200 meters, an extremely challenging shot under ideal conditions, and almost impossible given the hasty shooting position she had been forced to adopt. Alpha leader, enemy sniper, is in position and preparing to engage. "I have a possible shot, but the range is extreme and conditions are not optimal. Take the shot if you have it, Overwatch. We're completely exposed down here." Sarah forced herself to slow down, applying the fundamentals of marksmanship despite the pressure and suboptimal conditions. Breathing control, sight alignment, trigger squeeze, each element had to be perfect at this distance. A miss would not only fail to eliminate the threat, but would also reveal her new position to the enemy. The shot felt perfect as it left the barrel, but 1,200 meters provided ample opportunity for even tiny errors to become significant misses. Sarah watched through her scope as the bullet struck the window frame inches from her intended target. The enemy sniper jerked back in surprise, but was not hit. "Missed," Sarah reported tersely, already working the bolt for a follow-up shot. The enemy sniper had been alerted to her presence and was likely trying to locate her position for return fire. The enemy marksman appeared briefly in a different window, apparently seeking a better angle on Rodriguez's team while avoiding Sarah's line of sight. This shot was even more challenging, as the target was moving and only partially visible through the window opening. Sarah's second shot struck home, and she watched the enemy sniper collapse from view. The immediate threat had been eliminated, but at considerable cost in time and ammunition. Worse, her hasty relocation and multiple shots had likely revealed her general position to any remaining enemy forces. "Threat neutralized," Sarah reported. "But I've compromised my position. Any movement in my area should be considered hostile." "Copy, Overwatch. Outstanding work. We're continuing to the objective." As Rodriguez's team advanced toward the compound, Sarah maintained Overwatch from her new position. Her rifle had now accounted for 3 enemy snipers, each one eliminated before they could inflict casualties on her unit. The mathematical reality was undeniable. Without her intervention, several of her fellow soldiers would likely be dead or wounded. Yet Sarah knew that proving herself in combat was only the first step. The attitudes and prejudices that had greeted her arrival wouldn't disappear overnight, even in the face of demonstrated competence. Some soldiers would acknowledge her contributions, while others would find new reasons to question her place in the unit. Through her scope, Sarah watched Rodriguez's team reach the compound perimeter without taking additional sniper fire. Her covering fire had been effective, clearing the approach routes of the most dangerous threats. But the mission was far from over, and Sarah remained alert for any signs of additional enemy activity. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on her. Soldiers who had questioned her qualifications less than 24 hours earlier were now alive because of those very same skills they had doubted. Sarah had protected men who believed she didn't belong, eliminating threats they couldn't even see from distances they couldn't imagine. As the assault team began their final approach to the target building, Sarah maintained her vigilant watch through the scope. Each shot she had taken was clean, precise, and professional, exactly what was expected from a sniper of her caliber. The mission was succeeding because she had done her job with skill and dedication, regardless of the opinions of those she was protecting. The assault on the compound proceeded with textbook precision until Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled urgently over the radio. "Overwatch, we got a problem. The target is moving toward an escape vehicle on the north side of the compound. Can you see the area?" Sarah quickly shifted her scope to scan the northern perimeter, where intelligence had not indicated any vehicle access points. Through the magnified view, she could see a heavily armored SUV positioned behind what appeared to be a recently constructed wall. A figure in expensive clothing was moving rapidly toward the vehicle under heavy guard. "Confirm visual on target individual approaching escape vehicle," Sarah reported. "Multiple armed escorts providing security. Range is approximately 1,400 meters. Can you stop it?" Rodriguez's voice carried a note of desperation. Months of planning and intelligence gathering would be worthless if Hassan al-Mahmoud escaped to continue his terrorist activities. Sarah studied the tactical situation through her scope. The target was moving erratically, using his bodyguards as human shields while advancing toward the vehicle. At 1,400 meters, even a perfect shot would take nearly 2 seconds to reach its destination, requiring Sarah to predict exactly where her target would be when the bullet arrived. More concerning was the fact that Captain Rodriguez and his team were still inside the compound, completely exposed to enemy fire if the situation deteriorated further. Sarah's shots had eliminated the known sniper threats, but dozens of enemy fighters remained in defensive positions throughout the area. "I have a possible shot," Sarah replied after calculating wind drift and trajectory. "But the target is using human shields, and the range is extreme. There's significant risk of civilian casualties if I miss." "Negative on civilian casualties," Rodriguez responded immediately. "Those are all combatants. Take the shot if you have confidence in the hit." Sarah settled into her shooting position, applying every technique learned through years of training and combat experience. At 1,400 meters, environmental factors became critical variables. Wind speed, temperature, humidity, even the rotation of the Earth would affect bullet flight over such an extreme distance. Through her scope, Sarah watched Hassan al-Mahmoud reach the vehicle and begin climbing into the passenger seat. One of his bodyguards was scanning the surrounding hills with binoculars, apparently searching for the sniper who had been eliminating their defensive positions. In seconds, the armored vehicle would be moving, making any shot impossible. Sarah's breathing slowed to the familiar rhythm as she aligned her crosshairs. The shot would require leading the target's movement while compensating for multiple environmental factors. Miss by inches, and a dangerous terrorist would escape to kill innocent civilians. Hit the wrong person, and she would have committed murder. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, and Sarah immediately worked the bolt for a potential follow-up shot. Through her scope, she watched the .338 Lapua round complete its 2-second flight across the valley. Hassan al-Mahmoud jerked violently and collapsed half inside the vehicle, struck center mass just as he had been attempting to duck below the door frame. "Target down," Sarah announced. "Confirmed hit on primary objective." "Outstanding shot, Overwatch." Rodriguez's voice carried genuine amazement. "That was an incredible piece of shooting. The target is definitely down." Sarah maintained her scope on the vehicle area, watching as the remaining bodyguards abandoned their escape attempt and scattered toward defensive positions. Without their leader, the enemy force was beginning to lose cohesion, exactly as intelligence had predicted would happen if al-Mahmoud was eliminated. "Alpha Leader, be advised that enemy personnel are moving toward your position from the vehicle area." approximately 6 individuals armed with assault rifles. Copy that. We're extracting with the intelligence materials. Can you provide cover for our withdrawal? Sarah tracked the fleeing bodyguards through her scope, identifying their movement patterns and likely destinations. Several were heading toward positions that would allow them to engage Rodriguez's team during their extraction route. Others appeared to be establishing defensive positions to delay any pursuit. I can provide limited coverage, Sarah responded. But you need to move quickly. Enemy reinforcements may be responding to our activity. As Rodriguez's team began their fighting withdrawal from the compound, Sarah provided precision fire support whenever enemy fighters exposed themselves long enough for accurate shot placement. Each round was carefully aimed to eliminate specific threats while conserving ammunition for the extended engagement. The enemy had finally identified Sarah's approximate position and was attempting to suppress her with automatic weapons fire. Bullets cracked overhead and struck the rocks around her position, forcing her to remain low while seeking opportunities to return fire. The tactical situation was rapidly becoming untenable. Overwatch, we need immediate extraction to LZ Alpha, Rodriguez announced. Enemy reinforcements are approaching from multiple directions. How's your situation? Under heavy fire, but still operational, Sarah replied, sending another precisely aimed shot toward an enemy fighter who had been directing suppressive fire against Rodriguez's position. I can maintain covering fire for approximately 10 more minutes before ammunition becomes critical. Sarah's shooting had been devastatingly effective throughout the entire operation. 3 enemy snipers eliminated before they could engage friendly forces. The primary target neutralized at extreme range under challenging conditions. Multiple supporting enemy fighters eliminated during the extraction phase. Her performance had been flawless by any objective measure. Yet as she prepared to displace from her increasingly dangerous position, Sarah knew that some soldiers would still find reasons to question her contributions. Human psychology was notoriously resistant to changing established opinions, even when confronted with overwhelming evidence to the contrary. The helicopter extraction proceeded under continuous enemy fire, with Sarah providing covering fire until the last possible moment before displacing to the landing zone. As she gathered her equipment and moved rapidly down the ridge line, automatic weapons fire continued to rake her former position. At the landing zone, Rodriguez's team was already aboard the extraction helicopter with the captured intelligence materials and confirmation of the primary target's elimination. The mission had been a complete success by every measurable standard, accomplished without friendly casualties despite facing a well-prepared and determined enemy force. Sarah reached the helicopter just as enemy fighters appeared on the ridge line above, their weapons trained on the landing zone. She dove through the aircraft's open door as rounds began impacting around the landing skids. The helicopter lifted off immediately, climbing rapidly away from the increasingly accurate enemy fire. As the compound disappeared behind them, Captain Rodriguez removed his helmet and approached Sarah with an expression of genuine respect and gratitude. Corporal Chun, that was some of the finest shooting I've ever witnessed. Your performance today saved multiple lives and ensured mission success. Other soldiers in the helicopter were also looking at Sarah with new expressions, their previous skepticism replaced by something approaching awe. Sergeant Williams, who had been most vocal in his doubts about her capabilities, appeared particularly thoughtful as he stared out at the valley where Sarah's marksmanship had proven so decisive. 3 confirmed sniper kills at ranges exceeding 800 meters, Rodriguez continued. Primary target eliminated at 1,400 meters under combat conditions. Multiple supporting kills during extraction. Outstanding work, Corporal. Sarah nodded acknowledgement while beginning the routine maintenance of her equipment that followed every mission. The rifle had performed flawlessly, as had all her supporting gear. More importantly, every round fired had achieved its intended purpose, eliminating threats and protecting friendly forces. Yet even as her fellow soldiers began to express their appreciation for her performance, Sarah remained focused on the tactical lessons learned during the operation. Intelligence had underestimated enemy sniper capabilities and defensive preparations. Communication procedures had worked well under stress. Equipment performance had been excellent across all environmental conditions. The helicopter flight back to base provided time for reflection on the day's events, but Sarah found herself already thinking about future missions and training requirements. Today's success would need to be repeated consistently if she wanted to maintain credibility within the unit and continue protecting soldiers who depended on her skills. As they approached the base landing zone, Sarah could see that word of their mission success had already spread. Ground crews and support personnel were gathered to witness the return of a team that had achieved something many had thought impossible. But Sarah knew that proving herself once wasn't enough. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new skeptics, and new opportunities to demonstrate that appearances could be fatally deceiving. The celebration in the unit area that evening was subdued, but genuine, with soldiers sharing stories from the day's successful mission over simple field rations and instant coffee. Captain Rodriguez had officially commended the entire team for their professionalism and effectiveness, but everyone understood that Sarah's marksmanship had been the decisive factor in their success. Sergeant Williams approached Sarah as she was cleaning her rifle for the final time that day. His usual swagger and aggressive confidence had been replaced by something approaching humility, though his pride clearly made the conversation difficult for him. "Corporal Chun," he began hesitantly, "I owe you an apology, and probably my life." Sarah looked up from her rifle maintenance, her expression neutral, but not unfriendly. "You don't owe me anything, Sergeant. We all did our jobs today." "No," Williams insisted. "It's more than that. When I was pinned down by that sniper, when those rounds were hitting inches from my position, I knew I was dead. Then your shot came, and suddenly I could move again. You saved my life, and I spent yesterday treating you like you didn't belong here." Sarah resumed her rifle cleaning, considering her response carefully. "Sergeant, every soldier in this unit has something to prove. You've proven yourself in combat many times over the years. Yesterday was just my turn." Williams sat down heavily on the bench beside her, his expression troubled. "It wasn't just yesterday, though. It was everything, the comments, the attitude, the assumptions. I was wrong about you, and I'm sorry." "Apology accepted," Sarah replied simply. "What matters is mission success and bringing everyone home alive. We accomplished both today." As Williams walked away, clearly still processing the day's events and his own behavior, Private Martinez approached with obvious excitement. The young soldier had watched the mission unfold with fascination, particularly Sarah's long-range shooting that had seemed almost magical to someone with limited combat experience. "Corporal, can I ask about that final shot? The one that got the target at 1,400 meters? How do you even calculate something like that?" Sarah appreciated Martinez's genuine curiosity and desire to learn. Unlike Williams's initial skepticism or the dismissive attitudes of some other soldiers, Martinez approached her expertise with the respect typically shown to any subject matter expert. "Environmental factors become critical at extreme ranges," Sarah explained, using the opportunity to share knowledge that might prove valuable in future situations. "Wind speed and direction, temperature, humidity, even the rotation of the Earth. You have to calculate where your target will be when the bullet arrives, not where they are when you fire." Martinez listened intently as Sarah explained the fundamentals of precision shooting, asking intelligent questions that demonstrated his genuine interest in understanding the complexities involved. Other soldiers gradually joined the conversation, their previous dismissive attitudes replaced by professional curiosity about capabilities they had witnessed firsthand. Captain Rodriguez approached the group with a folder containing preliminary mission reports and intelligence summaries. "Corporal Chun, I need you to review these documents and provide input on sniper-specific observations for the after-action report." As Sarah examined the materials, Rodriguez continued addressing the gathered soldiers. Today's mission succeeded because every team member performed their assigned role with skill and professionalism. Corporal Chin's marksmanship eliminated multiple threats that could have resulted in friendly casualties and mission failure. The captain's words carried particular weight because of his reputation for honest assessment and fair leadership. Soldiers who might have continued questioning Sarah's capabilities despite the day's evidence were forced to reconsider their positions when faced with their commander's unequivocal endorsement. "Sir," interrupted Sergeant Patterson, a veteran with over 15 years of combat experience, "that 1,400-meter shot. I've been in this business a long time, and I've never seen anything like it. How does someone even train for that kind of shooting?" Sarah looked up from the mission documents, recognizing the opportunity to address misconceptions that extended beyond just her personal situation. "Extreme-range shooting requires years of practice under varied conditions, Sergeant. It's not just about equipment or natural ability. It's about understanding ballistics, environmental factors, and maintaining shooting fundamentals under stress." "But the equipment must be special, right?" Martinez asked. "Custom rifle, special ammunition, standard issue .338 Lapua rifle with minor modifications," Sarah replied. "The ammunition is match grade, but available through normal supply channels. The difference is in the training and experience, not exotic equipment." As the conversation continued, Sarah noticed a fundamental shift in how her fellow soldiers interacted with her. Questions were genuine rather than skeptical. Comments reflected curiosity about her expertise rather than dismissal of her capabilities. Most importantly, she was being treated as a subject matter expert whose knowledge was valuable to the entire unit. The transformation wasn't complete or universal. Some soldiers remained uncomfortable with challenging their preconceptions about women in combat roles, and others simply took longer to process evidence that contradicted their existing beliefs. But the change was significant enough to be noticeable and encouraging. Later that evening, as Sarah was securing her equipment for the night, she discovered a problem that sent a chill down her spine. Someone had rifled through her gear bag, and several critical items were missing. Her backup scope, custom ammunition loads, and specialized tools had all disappeared sometime during the day's activities. Sarah immediately reported the theft to Sergeant Patterson, who was serving as duty NCO for the evening. Patterson's reaction was swift and professional, initiating a comprehensive search of the unit area and questioning soldiers about any suspicious activity they might have observed. "This is serious, Corporal," Patterson explained as they systematically searched potential hiding places. "That equipment represents thousands of dollars in government property, not to mention its tactical value. Plus, stealing from fellow soldier is completely unacceptable." The search continued for over an hour without success, creating tension throughout the unit as soldiers realized that someone among them was a thief. Trust between team members was essential for combat effectiveness, and theft undermined the cohesion that kept everyone alive in dangerous situations. It was Private Johnson, a soldier who had remained largely neutral during the previous day's controversies, who finally made the discovery. Behind a storage shed used for maintenance equipment, he found Sarah's missing gear carelessly thrown into a pile of discarded materials and old trash. "Looks like someone just wanted to get rid of it," Johnson observed as they recovered the scattered equipment. "This isn't theft for profit. Someone was trying to damage or dispose of your gear." Sarah examined each piece of equipment carefully, checking for damage that might compromise its reliability. The backup scope had been deliberately damaged, with its adjustment knobs bent and lens scratched. The specialized ammunition had been scattered and mixed with dirt, making it unsafe to use without complete inspection and cleaning. "This was sabotage," Patterson concluded grimly. "Someone wanted to ensure your equipment would fail during future missions. That's not just theft, it's attempted murder of your fellow soldiers." The implications were sobering for everyone involved. Deliberately damaging a sniper's equipment was tantamount to ensuring that supporting soldiers would die when precision fire was needed. Whoever had done this was willing to sacrifice friendly lives to express their personal animosity towards Sarah. Captain Rodriguez arrived within minutes of being notified, his expression reflecting the seriousness of the situation. "This investigation will continue until we identify the responsible party," he announced to the assembled unit. "Sabotaging military equipment endangers everyone's lives and will be prosecuted to the fullest extent possible." As the investigation intensified over the following days, Sarah continued her duties with replacement equipment while maintaining professional composure despite the personal attack. The incident had actually strengthened support from soldiers who understood its implications, creating a clear division between those who accepted her based on demonstrated competence and those whose prejudice ran deeper than professional considerations. The case was eventually solved when another soldier observed suspicious behavior and reported it to investigators. The perpetrator was someone Sarah had never directly interacted with, a soldier whose animosity was based entirely on abstract prejudice rather than personal conflict or professional disagreement. The resolution provided closure for the unit while reinforcing important lessons about the consequences of allowing personal bias to override professional judgment. Sarah's equipment was replaced and upgraded. Her reputation was enhanced by the professional way she handled the situation, and the unit's cohesion was ultimately strengthened through addressing the underlying issues. But the most significant change was in how Sarah was perceived and treated by her fellow soldiers. The combination of her proven combat effectiveness and professional response to personal attack had earned genuine respect from people who might otherwise have remained skeptical. She had not only proven her tactical capabilities, but also demonstrated the character traits that made someone truly valuable as a team member. As their deployment continued, Sarah found herself integrated into the unit in ways that had seemed impossible just days earlier. Soldiers sought her advice on marksmanship techniques, included her in planning discussions, and treated her as the subject matter expert she had always been. The transformation wasn't complete, but it represented progress toward the kind of professional environment where capabilities mattered more than appearances or preconceptions.